Welcome to The Explainer. We're going to break down a business model that's making two really big promises, one to its customers and one to its investors. But you have to ask, what happens when those two promises just can't both be kept at the same time? So, it all kicks off with this number right here, $5. $5. That's the price for a kilogram of pork delivered straight to you in Harare. That's a pretty amazing price. Now, for shoppers, a price like that is a total game changer, right? But for the people actually funding the whole operation, the investors, well, that's where things get complicated. It creates this hidden tension. I mean, can a company really serve two masters? You've got the customer who wants that super low price, and the investor who's been promised a solid return. Something's got to give. All right, so let's get into it. How on earth is this $5 price even possible, and who's it really for? Okay, so on the surface, the whole model looks genius. It's set up as a win-win. For consumers, you get super cheap pork, just $5 a kilo with free delivery. And for the partners, well, these are often investors, maybe from the diaspora, who put up the money to fund the supply chain. And in return, they're promised a nice profit. The engine making all this happen is this vertically integrated system. Basically, they control everything, the farm, the processing, the delivery, all to achieve what they call superior efficiency. But, superior efficiency sounds great on a PowerPoint slide. What happens when it runs into the real world? What happens when things get messy and unpredictable? And this right here, this is the question. The one question that cuts right to the heart of the whole thing. If costs suddenly shoot through the roof, let's say feed prices double overnight, what gets sacrificed? Do you stick to that $5 price for the customer to keep grabbing market share, or do you protect the investor's return to keep them happy? Because you probably can't do both. One of those promises has to give. So this tension creates this, well, it's like a high-wire act for the company. This really lays it all out, this idea of a dual mandate. Look at the two sides here. For the consumer, the promise is simple. Rock bottom prices, no matter what. Secure that market share. But for the partner, the promise is totally different. Protect my money and give me the return you promised. Build that trust. See the problem? The second things get tight, these two promises are pulling in completely opposite directions. And that squeeze can happen really, really easily. Just look at the costs. A massive chunk of the expense of raising livestock is just one thing, feed. We're talking like 65% of the total cost. And the market for feed is all over the place. A price spike isn't some crazy hypothetical, it's practically a guarantee at some point. This quote from a legal guide on contract farming just nails the investor's position. In a setup like this, the partner, the investor, loses almost all their economic independence. Their success is completely tied to the main company, the contractor. They are relying 100% on that company to manage all these pressures and still pay them what they're owed. So, if you're a potential partner, how do you protect yourself? How do you figure out where you really stand? Well, the good news is we don't have to invent the wheel here. There are established legal frameworks out there for exactly these kinds of situations. Yeah, this Unit guide might sound a bit formal, but think of it less like a stuffy legal text and more like a playbook. It gives us the key things to look for, the concepts that help us pull apart the risks in any of these kinds of agreements. First up is something called the price mechanism. This is huge. The contract needs to be absolutely 100% clear about how the price is set. Is that buyback price for the partner's animals totally fixed, like set in stone? Or are there conditions where it can change? Because that one little detail determines who's actually taking on all the risk of prices going up. Then you've got the exclusivity clause. This basically means the partner is locked in. They can only sell back to the one company. Now, that's pretty standard for these deals, but think about what it means. You have zero other options. Your entire investment success is riding on that one company's ability and willingness to pay you. Which brings us to the next point. What happens if the promise gets broken? The contract absolutely has to spell out the remedies for breach. If the company doesn't pay you what they said they would, what can you actually do about it? Is there a clear path to get your money, or are you just stuck? And finally, you gotta look for the force majeure clause. People sometimes call this the act of God clause. It's the part that says a company can be excused from its promises if some big unforeseen event happens. But the devil is in the details. What counts as an unforeseen event? Is a huge spike in feed costs considered force majeure? Because if it is, the company could walk away from its promise to pay and the partner is left holding the bag. Okay, so let's tie this all together. If you're looking at one of these deals, what are the action items? What's your playbook? Here's a checklist, basically, a due diligence playbook. Number 1, get crystal clear on that price formula. Is it truly guaranteed or not? Number 2, define what a breach of contract looks like and know exactly what your remedies are if it happens. 3, scrutinize that force majeure clause. What lets them off the hook? And number 4, understand the dispute process. If you disagree on something, how does it get solved? You need to know that before a problem ever comes up. You know, in the end, this isn't just about this one partnership. It's a classic business problem. Anytime you have a model that's built on a dual promise, making one group happy over here and another group happy over there, you have to ask, where does the bold strategy stop and the big structural risk begin? And that brings us right back to that fundamental question we started with. When the pressure is really on, which promise is built to last?